Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to a special episode of Speaking from the Heart. Although, even as I say that, it might not be as special after you hear what I have to say. You see, this episode was not even planned. It was something that wasn't in my schedule in which to record at all, because it was something that happened to me within the last week that has been one of the most challenging of experiences since my suicide attempt 3.5 years ago, in which I had yet another relapse into the thought process that got me into the bad situations that I was in from the very beginning. I have to tell you that for many people that are out there, this is probably not going to be an easy episode to listen to, because it's about me, your podcast host, Joshua D. Smith. As a matter of fact, it's putting something out there in the universe that for maybe one day I will go back and listen to and think, why did I ever think the thoughts that I did? But yet, I want this episode to come out sooner rather than later because of the importance of what this topic is all about, which is why this episode will not be numbered and will not count towards any sort of significance whatsoever into the catalog of my episodes overall. But I do want to share something that has happened to me that I hope might bring some hope in your world, that there's always good that will happen on the other side, regardless of what you think your purpose is in this world. Last Monday, I had a fight with someone that, even to this day, I feel that maybe I could have acted better. But it was something that was said to me that made me really think about the fact that I need to continue to have this conversation. This is why Speaking from the Heart, the podcast in which I started through my business, Your Speaking Voice, exists. This is the reason why I started my business in the first place, to continuously remind me of the purpose that we all have in this world, which ironically enough, when this recording comes out, it is already on the same week in which I talked about several months ago when I recorded Finding Our Purpose to come out. I think that it's often interesting in our lives that when things happen for a reason, we're often surrounded by the same reminders of the things that we're challenged to become. We might be becoming that past version of who we are before we even realized what had transpired. And let me give you the context of the story that I wish to share with you. It was about a week ago, and I had a very bad day. I mean, it was one of those days in which you go to work and you think that you're going to have one of the best moments of your life. It's almost as if you think that the work that you're going to accomplish is going to change things, but something wasn't right. People were very angry that day. There was just robustness of all kinds of other things happening. It just didn't sit with me that that day was going to turn out the way that I thought it would. Some things were said to me at the workplace that oftentimes would make anybody feel terrible about themselves. And it wasn't anything really that extravagant, but being that I'm autistic, which I've shared on this show, it created a lot of ramifications for my own mindset to really overcome. Oftentimes, I think that we want to have this best day in our lives when we go to work, or whether we want to work on a project of any sort. But this day was a little bit different in what I was supposed to expect. I got home and I realized that I did something wrong. And I'm not going to mention their name. I'm not going to mention what had happened because I don't want to put that person on the spotlight on this podcast. Because I always, especially in my own business, want to respect the confidentiality of others. And they might be even listening to this at some point, and I don't want them to think that there's any ill feelings. But the thing is that something happened in which, let's just say, an animal got out when I got home and pulled my car into the garage. I wasn't really sure at that moment what actually happened because I didn't see anything. Later on, I was confronted by the owner of that animal, in which, after knowing this person for a long time, had said some very hateful things about who I am. Some of the things that ran through my head after the things that they said came alive, which I will share with you what those things are. I was told that I was really not an active person to really contribute to the household, which, let's face it, I know that sometimes I'm not a very perfect person when it comes to keeping up with things, and sometimes that happens because of the hustle and bustle of my life. Being a business owner and all kinds of other things really translate into all different types of situations that oftentimes I wish I wasn't even doing after the fact. Cleaning up after yourself, putting the laundry away, feeding yourself, all those different things. I knew that I messed up, but instead of being apologetic about it, though, my volume of my voice raised because I was angry. Why was I being told this? And that I wasn't good enough now and I wasn't before, because that was also another statement that this has been happening always. When is that communication ever going to happen, though, that we should have been told that we need to change? Then there was something else that was said that really struck me to the heart. These words are the radiance of what really has been my problem all along, and would forever get me down into a spiral which I have had to climb out of time and time again. This person said to me that I can't be trusted with anything, that they can't go anywhere without getting someone else involved because I'm unworthy of their trust. Now, I don't know about you, if you have ever been through this, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's with a personal conflict that happens at work, but that let my heart sink to the very depths of where I was feeling on February 23rd, 2020. Now, I handled it really well for 2 days, and I also was talking with my therapist about the situation which was playing out in my head, and I really wanted to get the assurance that I was doing good things, that I am doing the right thing, no matter what. But yet, I went down a path that I'm not proud of. I was thinking about suicide. Now, I know it's tough to hear these words, and you hear it from somebody that maybe you've been listening to several dozen of these episodes, which, if you have been an active follower, thank you. I really support the fact that you have been behind me in my journey and what I want to share to the world and to becoming the best version of ourselves. But I was not the best version of myself. As a matter of fact, I was out of commission for 5 calendar days. I could not function. I had a complete shutdown. What transpired after even my therapy appointment turned into something much worse. On Thursday, after even trying to work through some of the things and that I was having a bad day, it got worse and worse. The coping skills that I've been learning and trying to improve upon in the last 3.5 years was not working. I was struggling so much with trying to understand and trying to create those opportunities in myself that really were not working. Those skills that I was learning was not working at that moment. Those skills in which I was using were not working at that moment. Then the post on Facebook, which many of you might be listening to this because you might have seen some things on my personal Facebook page that make you question whether I'm truly okay. Things about rejection, the volunteer role, which I will not talk about here on this show. If you're a friend of mine, you know what I'm talking about. But I was rejected. Even after all the improvements that I've made, about the things that I do, and sometimes even the things that I hold really complacent about what I want to create in my life. Nobody else wanted to see that. I thought I was a piece of shit to somebody else's eyes. But what made it even worse was that I was feeling that no one cared, that I was always going to be on the bottom of someone's shoe, almost like a piece of gum that got stuck and needed to be pried out in order to be thrown away. I was feeling like I was worth nothing. I did not want to be in the best version of who I am. I was putting it out there, though, that my world was falling apart. Many, many people were reaching out to me saying, no, don't say that about yourself. You are worthy of all the things that you have been accomplishing. The business has been something that you have been really working on and has created some of the best of opportunities that you never thought possible because of that. You are doing so many incredible things. You got to keep going and make this happen no matter what. But I know that also from some of those things that have been happening was really about the fact that I was not feeling worthy of all the love that I was receiving. People telling me, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're far more successful than you realize. This feeling will pass. It's just a bump in the road. Just know that you're not a failure. Keep talking about your story. Keep telling people who you are. Look at what I've been saying to my friends and family. Don't feel like you're a failure. Your life does mean something. You can change this process in your life. All you need to do is stop. People that I knew that were just seeing me the other day were surprised by even the reactions that I had. Please reach out to me. Keep your chin up. Make sure that you know that I'm an inspiration for you. And in turn, people letting me know that they were inspired by me. People offering that they want to listen, that the only way that you need to get through this is to keep going through, and that you are an inspiration and that you're passionate about the impacts that you're making. Even my own mom, who if my mom is listening to this, said that I should come home. And yes, Mom, I know I do need to come home. But what I do need to come home to is that I am not that same person that I once was. I have to read to you what I said on one of these posts that I want to challenge all of you on, and it's the following. I said that I'm nothing but a lazy failure that only takes up space and can't be trusted for anything. I don't know what hateful words that you might be using out there that might be challenging who you are. And it sucks that I'm autistic because then I have to struggle with those brain issues that I have, being on the spectrum and having to understand that these things come up because the one thing that got to the heart of everything that I've been through really stuck it to me. And I know that maybe I will still pay the ultimate price because this is still new and these are things that will still happen in my life. And I know that I'm still learning to cope with a whole new reality since even COVID, before this ever happened, which is my own personality crashing down. I don't know what's crashing around you. And I will admit that maybe I have none of the answers that you might be listening for today. But I did hear something in my heart at one moment when I was laying on the couch, contemplating whether I wanted to really kill myself yet again. And it was a different voice this time. It was a voice in which I realized that maybe I need to keep crawling back. That maybe I need to keep moving forward despite all the pain and the pressure that I've been feeling deep down inside of myself. Maybe this had to be something that was completely different from the other times in which that voice spoke. But I heard these words in my head that I really couldn't get out, and I want to share them with you now. Even in the deepest of the lows that I felt, something inside of me erupted. Something told me to keep going, to not give up, to not lose hope in this world that generates a lot of lost hope. There are still people that I'm still trying to figure out whether I need to keep them in my life or not. And I'm still in that process now, and there's a lot of change, unexpected in my life, that's going to be happening pretty soon. But even as we get into the fall months here, and even get into some of the end of the year's episodes in which I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things relating to helping you become that best version of yourself in the new year. I've realized that there is one thing that I want to share with you now as a precursor to what is yet to come in my life, and it's this that might be coming for you too. When this sort of situation that I just experienced comes and smacks you across the face, are you going to turn the other cheek and get yourself smacked on that side? Or are you going to grab the hand that's about ready to smack you again and tell them, no, you won't ever do that again? Change is hard. Sometimes even admitting some of the things that you are going through can be quite vulnerable. And I know I'm putting myself out there, and there might be people that will have questions about this, and they will still reach out to me saying, what is it that you actually were going through? And I'm going to tell you that those people that want to reach out, I want you to do it for the right reasons. Don't do it just because you want to have the information. Do it because you want to know what kind of change you want to make in your life so that maybe you don't have to go through the same situation I did, or maybe put someone else through the situation that I just went through, because there's always two sides to each story. Be the person that you can be that allows you to change not only the circumstances in which you are going through, but also allows you to create the opportunity that you really want to have in your life. And that means that sometimes when it comes out of the unknown, be ready. Be ready for something that might help you or might hinder you. But if it does hinder you, learn something from it. Don't let it be taken away as an excuse for something that you are just then consistently pushed down on time and time again. But I also have another piece of advice for all of those that might be wondering if I'm okay. It's one thing to say to someone that you are okay, but it's a whole other thing to go the extra mile. Maybe instead of calling a welfare check on someone, give them the space that they truly deserve. Instead of always thinking that there's the worst outcome that is happening, give that person the space to process what those thoughts are. But it doesn't mean that you have an open book to tell someone, to dictate that things are going to be better. One of the most original things that I've heard, and even that I preached, even on other episodes that I have published on this podcast, let alone that are yet to be published, refer to the fact that we have to be compassionate listeners. And I've mentioned, and I will mention again in a future episode, about the importance of Tom Caden and Michael Gingrich and their organization, Someone to Tell It To, which has a fabulous staff of people that are challenging the belief of how we can use compassionate listening to change the whole spectrum of how we solve problems. Why can't we just be listeners instead of just dictating to other people what to feel, how to process, and how to overcome? We need to challenge the status quo. It doesn't mean always doing the same thing over and over again. And I know that, which is why I was able to stop myself this time. Does that mean that maybe I'll be successful the next time, that maybe I do want to hurt myself? I don't know. But I know this much. If you really think that if you listening to this, that you think that I am going to hurt myself, that you think that I am a victim, and I'm playing that card right now, and if you think that I am just some sort of two-bit loser in which you're just going to unfriend me even after this, I want you to really take a big step back and think about the fact that maybe I'm sharing this because I know that we all have hurt inside of ourselves. The level in which our hurt radiates can be so much. It can be even overwhelming to the point that we are never able to overcome. Those are the people then that do decide to hurt themselves and maybe even end their lives if they're successful enough. But I challenged something in my life 3.5 years ago, all thanks to a friend that allowed me to see who I truly can become. And I'm living that best version of myself right now. As the founder and owner of Your Speaking Voice LLC, being a podcast host of Speaking from the Heart, and sharing my story across many different platforms, whether on television, even on radio, even on other podcasts. And even as I continue to build my presence and get on that big stage to always share what my story is and how it can impact others, there's one thing that you can do, whether you want to do those sort of things that I'm doing or do it completely different, which is this. Keep feeding yourself of all the good things that you have in your life. Keep feeding yourself of all the different things that you are able to become just because you're surrounding yourself with the right books, people, and even coaching that will help you become the best version of who you are. But more importantly, as I've always mentioned, pave it forward for others. I can't stress it enough. I am vulnerable in this episode, not to just gain points, not to just say that, oh, woe me, please give me pity and sympathy for what I've been going through. Because the world doesn't act that way. As a guest of mine previous on this show that you have listened to has already stated, there is no excuse to keep holding back when you have the unlimited potential to keep moving forward, to keep telling your story in the hopes that maybe one day you'll continue to help others on a grand scale. But it isn't about being on that big stage, making millions of dollars, maybe even billions in your lifetime. It doesn't mean that you have to always try to be the best person. All you have to do is just change one thing, maybe even one person in your own life. And you can become not only an influence for others, but an influence on yourself. Feel free to circulate this podcast episode to those that might be struggling at this very moment, especially as we enter this fall and winter season, which has been traditionally known as the hell season for those that are chronically depressed, because this is the time of year people are going to remember their loved ones. They might even remember some of those tragic situations that they've been going through this past year, let alone what is happening right now in this world, which there is quite a lot of conflict, even as you look at the Middle East, but even here in the United States where this podcast is located at, we have a lot more work to do in order to become not only the best versions of ourselves, but to enhance our voice in quotation marks in this ever-changing world. If my voice today could share one thing, and if there's only one thing, I want you to know that I love you. I love you for who you are. Just as much as I had to remind myself as I was laying on my bed and even on my couch, telling myself even after hearing some hateful words, that I am loved, that I am worthy of all the blessings that we can have in this world. But I need to keep paving it forward. And you need to keep paving it forward as well. Because you have what it takes. You have everything in the world at your disposal. And if you're ready to work with someone that keeps on bouncing back and keeps on wanting to be vulnerable, I'm your guy to work with. Thanks for listening to this unnumbered bonus episode of Speaking from the Heart. Not only do I wish to hear from your heart very soon, but I look forward to it, because we all need something in our life worth living for. You are loved. You are an inspiration on this earth. And just know that you can be trusted when the going gets tough. See you next time.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.